If you've got a large backlog of games and you don't know how to tackle them, well, I've got a solution for you because I'm gonna offer you 10 tips plus a bonus if you wait until the end of the video where I will share how to crush your backlog and never worry about it ever again. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Hi and welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Vashral and this is Tailplay. And in today's video, I will give you 10 tips of how to crush your backlog. But as a reminder, the purpose of your backlog is to enjoy your game experience at your own pace. So don't feel overwhelmed by the tips that I'm giving you. They're just there to help you out to get a better understanding of what you can do to apply these things and have a good time. As well, if you haven't watched the first and second part, you can do so as I will put them in the description below and at the end of the video. Just to make a short parenthesis, if you hear any kind of bird sounds, it's Zira. She's always interrupting. I'm recording right now and she's trying to be all over the place. She's talking whenever I do, so I apologize for any kind of noise, as I know it can be a little bit disturbing, but I appreciate if you have the patience to bear with and listen to what I have to say. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So let's start with number one. First things first that I think you should do is when you pick a game, if you want to add it in your backlog or you want to remove it from your backlog, is to try the 30 minutes rule. What does this 30 minutes rule? And for other people might be a little bit longer, but basically you give each game at least 30 minutes of playtime before deciding to continue or move on. Of course, some games may pick up pace a little bit slower than others, so keep in mind that aspect. Some games might require a couple of hours, such as Starfield, for example. It's a game that may require maybe 12 hours in order for you to finally see the value into this kind of game. So be aware about this, but generally the games that you play kind of give you a good sense of feel right from the get-go or in the first 2 hours. That's why on Steam you have this 2 hours and 2 hours and a half where you can play test, and if you don't like the game, you can even refund it. Now, if you're not on Steam and you still want to try out other games, and try out by embracing the idea of a Game Pass or a subscription service. Basically, you will take advantage of subscription services that offer a wide range of games, reducing the need to purchase new titles, and you get all these options to play whatever you want without having to pay so much for them. So that number two is out of the way. Let's move to number three, which is celebrate a milestone. Acknowledge and reward yourself when you complete a game or reach specific milestones in your backlog to maintain motivation. This is very helpful to look back and see at your progress. Sometimes we are so focused on jumping on the next game and the next game that we don't look back to see, hey, I've actually completed or finished or beaten or at least tried 10 games by now. And it's nice to look back and just have a little bit of time to reflect to see that you're still making progress. I tend to make this kind of practices by checking every now and then to see how many games I've completed this year compared to the last year, and it motivates me to know that I've done a little bit more, like maybe I completed 2-3 more games than last year, or I've played more games than last year and I managed to trim down more my backlog. Now for number four, this is gonna be an obvious one, but take breaks. If you're feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, take short breaks from gaming, step away and do something else to recharge and come back with a renewed enthusiasm. What I mean by this is sometimes it's not all about trimming down those games and getting to as many games as possible. Sometimes you have to have a healthy balance in what you do. This could be as well applied in other sections of your life, but we're talking here about your backlog, so it's important that you acknowledge that and you take a break. Some games might be feeling quite heavy, like they're very large games and you had to play hundreds of hours on them. Take a break for at least a day or two until you recharge, and then get back on it and apply the tips that I've provided you in the other videos, such as play something shorter. It is much better than to constantly keep yourself into stress. I like to play games that are intense and then balance them out with something much more relaxing the other time around, because I don't want to constantly keep myself stressed out that I'm struggling with a game that is difficult and then after that I have to play another one that is very much the same. For example, playing back to back Souls-like games or something of a sort. For tip number 5 is to seek recommendations. Basically, you can ask your friends or online communities for recommendation on which games from your backlog are must-play titles and focus on those for the time being. Trim down more of your backlog and be aware of the games that you have. They might not be really the things that will keep you enticed in trying them out. Of course, it's not always about playing the best games that are out there, and it's nice to try something different. Maybe go for an indie, or maybe go for something that is not such a high budget and maybe it has a great idea but the execution might not be great. Still, it's a good idea to spend your time wisely by playing games that are worth your time instead of actually playing everything out there. So keep in mind that aspect, and as I said, and I'm gonna remind you once again, watch my other videos because I've given more additional tips regarding this that will definitely help you out in trimming your backlog, your true backlog, to the right amount that you can possibly tackle. Now I want to stop here for a second and ask you kindly, if you enjoy this kind of content and want to see more, giving us a thumbs up helps us greatly by reaching out to other people who are struggling to tackle with their backlog, or they want additional tips or tricks like these, or they want to get game recommendations or anything like that. We definitely cover a lot of things, including reviews for some games. So if you're interested, you can check more of our content, and if you like what we do, you can subscribe to our channel, as that will help us greatly to know that you enjoy the content that we do and motivate us to reach out our goals. So thank you so much for watching until now and for listening to this. Let's get back to tip number 6. So not always you need to tackle the backlog by yourself. So make this as a group activity. Basically, organize gaming nights or weekends with friends or family to make your backlog progress a fun and social event. It's super fun to do this, especially if you have other people who do the same things. And if you don't have any friends in real life that do this, there's always friends online that can help you out. For number 7 is to embrace game mods and user created content. What I mean by this is to explore mods and user created content for games in your backlog to breathe new life into them and embrace your gameplay experience. There's plenty of games that support this kind of stuff, especially if you're playing on PC, such as Skyrim, Fallout, now you have Starfield. There is so many others, especially if you're playing older games, you can find mods or patches that fixes and enhances the overall experience of the game. So if you're finding something that may seem unusual or feels a little bit wrong, or maybe you're playing a very old game and you're struggling with the visuals, there might be a patch for that. So if you're on PC, you're definitely gonna have that kind of satisfaction to try out new things, and modding the games always is fun. If you enjoy to do that kind of stuff, that alone is gonna rob you from your time. So be careful and mindful about those things. I tend to spend countless hours on modding Skyrim or other games, and then I realized that I didn't even start the game. I just enjoyed the process. So be aware about that, but it's a fun thing to do, and it definitely is a good thing when you're trying out to play games that you might not enjoy as much anymore because it feels boring, or that you simply want to try something else in your second playthrough if you want to go for a completion, for example. Another great tip for number 8 is to deal with your unfinished games. If, for example, you have games that you've started but never finished, consider replaying them from the beginning to refresh your memory and fully enjoy the experience. Or if you play a game that is sandbox and doesn't require that much of a lore knowledge or anything like that, or the mechanics is fairly fresh for you, then you're definitely gonna have an easier time to pick up from where you left off. But it's very good to get back to the unfinished games, the ones that you have them installed, and finish those instead of actually picking up a new game and going for that. And of course, you can apply the 30 minutes rule and see if the game still clicks for you, and if it doesn't, drop it. Now, this tip might contradict tip number 4, where I said that you should play games back to back, but play games from the same series. If you have multiple games from the same series in your backlog, consider playing them in a chronological or release order to fully immerse yourself in the story and the gameplay mechanics. Now, of course, if the game particularly is hard, take breaks between them. Apply the two things that I've said in such a way that makes sense for you. But if you are a very good player that has no problem with soul-like games, or something that mechanically you are strong with and you don't have much of an one issue, play them in a chronological order or the way they were released, because it's such a fun time to play them like that and acknowledge them and pick up on what other people are saying. For example, I played the whole Assassin's Creed franchise from the very first one until Odyssey in a course of 1 year, back to back, and honestly I killed myself with the last two, Origins and Odyssey, because they are extremely massive. I spent 200 plus hours on them and I don't regret that. It's just the fact that I got to experience every single Assassin's Creed and see the things that I liked and see the things that I didn't like and see their evolutions and the characters and stuff like that and the progression of the mechanics, and it was fun. It's really fun. So I recommend trying that one out. If not, spare them in between other games and then play them in tandem in such a way that fits your way of playstyle. But don't ignore the good old games. They're there for a reason, for you to experience the story and see the progression and see why people look at some games with such a nostalgic way over the newer ones. And for number 10, use a game progression tracker. Use apps like Completionator or How Long to Beat to track your progress with completion statuses for each game in your backlogs. These tools can help you visualize your progress and motivate you to keep on going. I use the completionist.me and I'll put that in the description below, where you can check to see your progression via Steam, but there's other ways that you can check if you're doing this across other platforms. But there are great ways to track and monitor these kind of things. The options and the possibilities are endless, but it's a good way to know what you're doing, where you are, and how close are you to getting through more of your backlog and finishing as many games as possible. Now, as I said, there is a bonus for you. So as a bonus, gamify your backlog. What I mean by this is to treat your backlog like a quest log or achievement list, assign experience or rewards to completing games, and track your progress in a creative way using apps like Habitica or Life RPG, which is an Android app, and I think there's one for iOS. Obviously there's other apps that you can do that, but these are two that I found. And if you're trying to do something that is more fun, make everything fun. I know for some people gamifying or workifying this kind of things might not be their thing, but you can do it. And if you like to manage stuff and you're very tedious with your work, you're definitely gonna find this kind of things quite fun to do. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about in this video. As I said, if you haven't seen my previous videos, then you can definitely go ahead and do so. I will put them in the description below so that you can check them out and have a clear idea of what else you can do in order to tackle your backlogs. I hope that this list has helped you out as it helped me. I apply not all of them, but most of the things that I say over here, but mainly when I do these things, I do them without even realizing it's because I like to manage things in such a way that they're fun, at least for me. So if you find this video helpful, it would mean the world to me if you would drop me a comment and let me know which tip has helped you the most. And yeah, if you want to see more, as I said, you can watch this video. If not, you can watch the second video, which is gonna be in the description down below. So thank you very much for watching. As always, take care, stay safe, and happy gaming.